Good evening and welcome to Daily Politics on Trust TV. I'm Hamza Idris. Tonight, we take a closer look at the deepening controversy over the alleged alteration of the new tax reform laws passed by the National Assembly. While the Tinubu administration insists there is nothing irregular about the version gazetted, it has pushed back against calls to delay the January 1 implementation, warning that any postponement could hurt the economy, small businesses, and low-income earners. So are these concerns political noise or a real threat to legislative integrity? We'll unpack the issues with the civil society leader and chairman of the Coalition of United Political Parties, Comrade Peter Ameh. But first, here are the latest political developments across the country.
The federal government has formally classified kidnappers and violent armed groups as terrorists. The move hardens Nigeria's response to mass abductions, attacks on farmers, and rural violence. Information Minister Hamza Idris announced the decision at the end-of-year press briefing in Abuja. Authorities will now deploy full counter-terrorism measures, not routine policing. A Kabiru Turaki SAN-led PDP faction has asked the Federal High Court in Abuja to order the police to unseal and vacate the party's national secretariat and offices nationwide. The suit seeks a mandatory injunction to remove barricades and withdraw security personnel. Police sealed the secretariat in November after clashes between rival PDP factions linked to Turaki and FCT Minister Nyesom Wike. The federal government has defended plans to roll out new tax laws in January 2026. The presidency faces backlash over alleged changes between laws passed by lawmakers and the versions later gazetted. Fiscal Policy Chair Tayo Oyedele warned that delays could raise prices of food, healthcare, and education, while keeping workers and small businesses overtaxed.
And now, in line with the Monday edition of the program, here is Dr. Hakim Baba Ahmed with State of the Nation.
Hello. Tomorrow, Tuesday, 23rd of December, the committee set up by the House of Representatives is going to go through the disputed tax laws that have just been passed and which will become effective from the 1st of January. Tomorrow is the only day they have before the Christmas break. By the time we resume, which is January 1st, those laws will become effective. These laws have just recently been exposed as basically fraud. They offend constitutionalism, they offend the integrity of the National Assembly, they offend the expectations of Nigerians who believe that a process which is enshrined in our Constitution, which demands that the National Assembly should exercise its powers and that no process or procedure or authority should interfere with what they have decided. These were laws that took a long time in the making. They represent one of the biggest legislative initiatives of President Tinubu. They were extremely controversial, so controversial that they had to be subjected to intense scrutiny by many Nigerians who had raised massive issues around them. Eventually, they went through the legislative process. Our legislators scrutinized them, exercised a lot of responsibility in modifying some of them. While many Nigerians were still unsure about the effectiveness or the utility of these laws, they were passed. And procedure ordinarily would be that they will now go to become gazetted. Now, this is a process that simply continues the process of lawmaking, and there should be absolutely no alteration on anything passed properly by the legislature. Weeks after, just at the point when we expect these laws to become effective, we hear that there had been massive tampering with what our representatives in Abuja had approved and passed. The tampering was so serious that a lot of Nigerians are now apprehensive that the work done by the body constitutionally empowered by the Constitution to decide on what laws will pass, and which has been endorsed by the president, has been tampered with by somebody somewhere, and we don't know that. So a committee has been set up to look at this. At this point, it is important to say that that committee must work. Its work must be transparent. They must not be placed under, and the members of that committee must not be placed under any pressure to do the bidding of either the executive or somebody else who is interested in changing the decisions of our legislators into something else. Just so that we can be sure about what we're dealing with. The amendments that have been made basically are in 5 areas. What we understand they've done is that enforcement powers of the executive has been expanded. This is not what the legislature decided. Secondly, judicial safeguards have been weakened. Again, this is not what was decided in the National Assembly. Compliance thresholds have been lowered, the cost of legal challenges has been increased, and parliamentary oversight has been reduced. These are changes that were not part of the decisions of the National Assembly. They must be rectified, and this is the chance for the National Assembly to redeem its integrity and for President Tinubu to accord constitutionalism the respect it does. These laws must be withdrawn. Those who change these laws must be punished. And this is an excellent opportunity to put these laws on the table afresh. Nigerians demand that both the credibility and the transparency of these laws must satisfy the most minimum requirements for legality and propriety.
Dr. Hakim Baba Ahmed there with State of the Nation. As I said earlier, the program, we have Comrade Peter Ameh, the chairman of Coalition of United Political Parties in Nigeria. Once again, welcome.
I'm still the secretary. I've not been promoted.
Okay, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, now you have had Dr. Hakim Baba Ahmed. We also had eminent Nigerians, the likes of Atiku, Peter Obi, and even jurists like, of course, former, Voice and all that. They have all spoken. But then if you look at it on the other side, it's like the federal government is even yet to believe that there is any alteration. For instance, if we are to go with what Taiwo Oyedele said today, most of what we are seeing is just on social media. Where do you belong?
For me, a lot of Nigerians, including me, was taken aback. It was a shock when I saw the House of Rep member, making that revelation on the floor of the House. And I've not seen very fierce contest against his revelation. Taiwo can say whatever he's trying to say today, but I think his word is not the official word we should be listening to.
How do you mean? I'm sorry to cut you, but he's the chairman of the tax reform.
It has gone beyond his table. It has gone through processes within our enabling authority of our constitution and within the framework of our political and democratic legislation. So it has gone beyond him. So it is now between the National Assembly and the executive. Because for whoever gazetted the law and whatever alteration and forgery that have been buried in that law should be properly investigated. Because Nigeria is not a kangaroo country, or are we running a banana republic where the National Assembly that has statutory authority to make legislation that will govern the affairs and the affairs of this country, whether it's tax law, road safety amendment laws, media law, whatever it is, that framework should not be tampered with either by the executive. Because we have 3 arms of government, and the National Assembly is a government on its own within a government, and has all that necessary authority to take this decision on behalf of the Nigerian people. Everybody there in the House of Reps and in the Senate were elected to represent a federal constituency or a central district. So it is very important that Nigeria must put their searchlight on this, because if not for the due diligence of very few people, let me even credit the House of Reps person from Sokoto, even not for his due diligence. Today, Nigerians would have been, Nigeria would have woken up in January, and you see unnecessary level of arrest, and then the prosecutorial power that has been extended, beyond the authority that was, given to the the tax commission before. So we need to look at the laws at this level. These tax were not welcomed by Nigerians. This reform were not reformed that Nigerians were looking at that this is what should be. Then they went further to try to amend it. There's no nation in the world that have taxed itself to prosperity. There are countries in this world that have the kind of oil we have, that have the kind of resources we have, which countries, which citizens are not being, so strangulated with this level of taxation. So this focus on tax and generating among us resources that is not being utilized for the benefit of the people at the expense of the people's welfare is totally appalling. And if we were in a normal country that the National Assembly is effective, today as I'm talking to you, they would have written a letter of inviting the president to come and explain.
Why are they reluctant?
Yeah, because they have surrendered the institution to the executive. They have surrendered it to the executive. They make the executive look as if the executive is superior to the legislature. It's not true. It's not. There are two equal arms of government. It's just that every other arm has a responsibility to undertake. While one execute, the other one make provisions for the governing and the protection of our sovereignty and our integrity as a country. So you can't make laws and then you sit down. The rigorous process at which laws are made, whether you went through to third and the several pronouncements and several voting process from committee level to the house of the whole, and then at the end of the day, somebody sits in a corner and go ahead to gazette something that is contrary to whatever decision that the constitutional institution have taken. So it is something that is in any clime. There will be uproar today. There will be investigation. There will be invitation to the president, invitation to the FIRS, invitation to the bureaucratic authority that are responsible to gazette our laws and all sorts of other institutions. So that there will be a broader committee that will holistically analyze this issue so that Nigerian people can have trust in their institution. Because if Nigerians don't have trust in the institution, democracy will suffer. And there's already a huge deficit of trust between those in government and those outside government, those who are being governed. So how do we continue to widen it with this kind of actions that are not backed by the popular demand of the people?
I think there is fundamental question which people are not really asking, or such questions, have been overshadowed by other trivial issues. Who do you think altered these tax laws as passed by the two houses in the National Assembly? At what level?
The authority that is responsible for gazetting the law. It could be from...
That is the office of the Attorney General.
Yes. These are authorities that are responsible. And even the clerk of the house should also be invited, because who knows the copy that was submitted to the Attorney General's office? Who knows the copy that the Attorney General got? So it is not just a selective pick to try to investigate. You need to do holistic...
But who will do that? Going by the way...
That is where we have problem.
You can see the pushback from the federal government. The National Assembly a bit reluctant.
I told you from my opening that if it's a country where institutions are separate from those in power, you look at America, you look at where we borrow this democracy from. Yes, we are running a federal system with a cascading level of authority. We also have institutions. The police should not be so deep into the hands of the pocket of the president to a point that they cannot independently initiate investigation. That's the situation we have in Nigeria. That's not the same situation you have in developed democracies. Yeah, we could say we are a developing country, but how do we get to the developed level if our institutions cannot independently look at crime that have been committed and then wake up and then institute a process? If an ordinary person on the street who does not control apparatus of state today commit such level of crime, nobody's going to invite the police to it. The police is going to look at press conference, look at their media headlines, and going to go after the person. So it is clear that our institutions are the problem. Our institutions are so weakened, and they have become an appendage to those in power, to the extent that they do not have the confidence to be able to lead charge on the issues that falls within their constitutional mandate as an investigative and authority. So it is clear that we need to build, and that's where the National Assembly also comes in. Because the National Assembly is responsible to make laws for the good governance and development of this country. And if they're not making law in that direction, you have a weaker National Assembly and a strengthened executive that undermine the authority that is given to the National Assembly. And we keep on saying that people come to power and they think, oh, we're in power for the next 4 years. And they're thinking of another 4 years. You don't have to think of all these things. What you need to do is to make use of that your 4 years and make sure you establish, you build foundation that this democracy can, can stay on and absorb any shock that comes after it. And that's what we tell all of our friends who are in the National Assembly. Please do this for future generation. Don't think about your, immediate gain or immediate interest. If you think about that, the executive will continue to have overriding authority over an equal harm of authority.
Do you see the hands of the executive in this, Melly?
That the likely suspect in this whole thing. They are likely suspects. There's nothing, If that's what every Nigerian think. Every Nigerian think that the whatever amendment that was done and whatever alteration that happened, that the executive is a likely suspect.
You made mention in the introductory part of this program that Nigerians were not even in tune with the whole issue of rejigging the tax laws and all that. And here we are, having an executive that is really pushing. What is missing between the expectations of Nigerians and the fixation of the federal government to altering these, existing laws that we have?
I think there are two sides to it. The citizens have disengaged from government. The citizens, the docility of the citizens is largely responsible for the way they are being treated by those in power. And two, the insensitivity of those in power who think that the citizens will have to, chew everything hook, line, and sinker. Whatever they present, they don't have a choice. So this insensitivity is the reason why people are going up to make laws, even at a very difficult and critical time where Nigerians are, garnishing of teeth. You can't reform too much at once. There are too many reforms in the last 2 years since President Tinubu came into office. You have a rebasing of the economy that damaged the whole rebasing thing and brought the inflation, crashing inflation from 29 to 14. I've not seen it as somebody who who have studied right and near. And again, they have a removal of fuel subsidy. That removal of subsidy alone took transportation costs by over 300% and took away the people who were gainfully employed, turned them to underemployed citizens. So that also deep down into the pocket. So you see this reform, tariff for power sector, tariff was increased from band A, band C, and there's this categorization with that cost alone. So you now also come again with another level of tax. That is just pure insensitivity. That is pure disconnect between those in power and those who they are governing. Because even if you are going to make a tax law, it's something that will affect every living Nigerian. Yes, we want the country to work. You have to first of all show us what you've done with the level of money, the level of trillions that you have borrowed that have ballooned the national debt below $150 trillion. You need to show us what it is, and you are using that money for. There would have to be accountability. Today we have report from America that a shipload of our crude oil was stolen and it was caught on the high sea. Who are the people stealing this crude oil? Is Saudi Arabia paying taxes? And they are using their common resources to better the life of their people? Is Qatar citizens paying taxes? Their country where tax is not the only process to development. If you have accountability, if you have transparency and remove opacity from the business of governance, like what is happening under this President Tinubu administration. As I'm talking to you, there's a platform by which the budget office reports earnings, expenditure of government. That platform has been existing in the last 15 years. Under this administration, it was shut down. So when there's no transparency...
You mean the platform of showcasing the revenues and
revenue generation, revenue...
Someone has shut it.
It has been shut down for a while. So how do you expect me as a citizen to believe that you are using my money judiciously? The National Assembly, I see them like people who are toothless bootleggers, who are spineless bootlickers. That's the truth. It's a fair truth because as I'm talking to you... That's
a bit hard.
No, listen. Where is the budget? Where is the appropriation for the Calabar Coastal Highway? Where did the National Assembly pass it? Where did they pass the appropriation for the jet that the president bought? Where did they pass the appropriation for the International Conference Center, 39 billion, where Chinese is going to build a new one from scratch in this country for 40 billion?
Okay, let's get to the specifics because so many issues. Now, Tope Pashwa, one of the advisors of the president, said no pushback will actually affect the implementation. Where do you think he summoned that powers, for instance?
Dr. Vaswa is my very good friend. We've worked together before. And it's sad that that level of statement should come from somebody who is on the payroll of the public, who is working for the collective interest of there's no such power anywhere for him.
He's an economist. Probably he has looked at the variables out there.
What variables is he looking at? What variables has he looked at? And he looked at the level of inflation. Look at the level of economic hardship that Nigerians are going through. There's no level of GDP that you're going to put
They
out.
claim that is what is going to mitigate the impact of the inflation and all that, you know, especially for the downtrodden. Implementation of this.
Until Tokwe comes, you know, to show me the result of how Nigerians are living better life, and if he comes and we go and do voice properly, let's speak to Nigerians.
I'm sorry, it's Ajayi actually, not Pastor. It's Tope Ajayi. Yeah. You also know him, yes. They are all under the press.
Tope
yes.
is my friend. It's my very good friend.
Also.
Yeah, so it's sad that at this stage in time, anybody working for government and saying there's no matter the pushback they can't do, they have form an authority to themselves, because government is meant for the people. It's the people in government that are building to the citizens, that are responsible to listen to the yearnings of the citizen, to listen to the pains of the citizen, not the way that the citizens have to now, you know, genuflect and bow before them so that they will have mercy on them. It's not the other way around. And this is largely a symptom of failed electoral system. If you have a very genuine, a very standardized electoral processes, let me tell you, those in government will be responsible to the people. People think that they can get to power through the back door. Whatever you think as your opinion, they don't care. They can always get their way into power. And that is why you see this level of arrogance that happen within our government cycle. If people are making laws for the Nigerian citizens, if this law and there's this level of pushback and reaction by the citizen, you are supposed to pause and say, oh, what are we going to do? It is not only when they favor politicians. When President Tinubu came in, they went to the Supreme Court to try to make sure they direct line charge transfer of money to local government. But even in his speech at the National Assembly, he says at the meeting of the NEC of their party, says he's not doing it and governor has to do it. He's not doing it because he feels it will offend the governors. So why is it that he cannot listen to the over 230 million Nigerians that are crying?
Are you trying to say that they are doing a kind of rub my back and then
it's called quick quo pro. You know, you rub my back, I rub your back. Because how can the Supreme Court make a judgment and then administrative process is holding on to the Supreme Court? It weakens the constitutional authority fabric that is enshrined in our Supreme Court. Because when Supreme Court make a statement, there's no administrative means in making sure that the statement come to force. That statement automatically come to force from the day that pronouncement was made by the Supreme Court. But today, there are citizens who are responsible to, who are electorate, who are citizens of this country, who trooped out on election day. If you believe that their vote count, really, if you believe that no matter how super you think the law and provisions you are making is, you will be able to listen to them. But if you are not listening, it's because people just believe elections is just a ritual, just for, you know, to cover up the process. Whatever
now,
will happen.
if eminent Nigerians will all speak out that, look, there are issues. We just had, you know, Dr. Hakim Baba Ahmed. Earlier mentioned Justice Lawal Ways. I have a lot of points which he mentioned here. But then the government appears, I mean, reluctant, as I said. Now, for instance, Taiwo Edele, whom I mentioned earlier, he said, unless these laws, you know, take effect January 1, the poor will continue to pay more. I, as someone who earns salary, I will continue to pay high taxes and all that. And the businesses will suffer. I am not an economist. I don't know whether you are an economist.
I am one.
Okay, so is there a nexus between, I mean, these tax laws and then the survival of the downtrodden?
This tax law is targeted at revenue generation. There's nothing else there.
It's not about favoring the poor?
It's just targeted at revenue generation. What are you doing?
How do you mean? You think because they said your income must reach certain threshold.
They say there are 800,000 per annum or something, all those breakdown.
You think it's not true?
It could be, it's true. That arrangement, that safeguard that they are bringing is there. But you don't tax yourself to prosperity. You know, we need to put certain infrastructure in place. We need to be able to, you know, expand the welfare of the people, the opportunities for the people. Because when you expand it, and there are a lot of people who fall within the taxable income ratio, they will not be able to pay tax, and government will get more. What the government is doing is just like what they are doing with power. They decided to do categorization of
Band A,
Band B, yes. And then Band A is suffering more than any other thing, and you are strangulating very few people. Instead of you to provide electricity for the 250 million populace that you have, and then you have everybody paying little, and then at the end of the day, you have more money. It's an open basket. So, but what they are trying to do is to look for a way to stress the few and make sure that. But at the end of the day, when the company is overtaxed, that burden transferred to some of the staff of those.
And that is what people are saying, that even the companies, the high income earners who employ and all that they want to take this tax to, at the end of the day, they will all collectively transfer the burden to the same poor person. Because as we are now, even though people, number one, who are on Band ED, even if they are not getting the light, they are still paying in one way or the other, you know, what the Band A people are paying.
You can't escape when you live within a complete within a sovereign state, and we live within the one territorial integrity. This level of transfer is there. What happened to the removal of fuel subsidy?
The segregation you are.
Yes. What happened to fuel subsidy? When subsidy was removed, the president did not take time to check the corruption, to look at how much we can try to block the loopholes, and then try to look for a process by which it will mitigate the effect on the masses. He didn't look at that. He came up, removed fuel subsidy. What happened? The transporters, the filling station owners increased the cost of fuel from when the president was at Eagle Square. And cost of transportation skyrocketed by over 300%. People who were earning, like I had a staff who were earning about 100,000. When we calculated his transport from Nyanya to work, it became about 120,000.
It wiped out
the money. So what we are saying is that you make policy with human face.
Okay, with all this, do you think we really need a committee? And it's like we are inching very fast to the D-Day because the committee is there. They are expected to submit their report by, to even discuss or whatever, by Thursday. And from then, I don't think if they will be there until New Year. First, do you believe, in your estimation, that members of the committee will actually give a legitimate child? We have Mukhtar Betara, the chairman. You have Idris Wase. You have Abiodun Feleke, who is the chairman of the House Committee on Finance. You have Sada Soli, Garwe Idoma, Frederick Abedi, and Babajimi Benson.
Faleke is Lagos now. He's as of representative for Lagos.
How do you mean?
Does that then Batera was the former chairman appropriation committee. What we are saying is that there has to be public, open, transparent inquiry, you know, for people to see.
Because they are also suspects.
Yeah, well, I don't really trust the National Assembly as of today. I don't. As presently constituted, the National Assembly that sings in a public how they call it, institution like the National Assembly. When the president walks in, they sing "On Your Mandate You Shall Stand" instead of singing the national anthem first. And whatever they are doing, I don't think that they can differentiate themselves from the arms of the executive. They have been subsumed into the executive authority. So I do not really believe. So if they really want us to believe, we have to put what was seen by the House of representative member from Sokoto, put it side by side. Dasuki, put it side by side and do a thorough review, so that you don't come to us whether you withdrew it. Because
are you calling for an independent body from outside, maybe from the judiciary, yes, or civil society or mostly political parties and all that, where you belong?
That is how it should be. That's how it should be. You can't come up with a report, you know, either to exonerate yourself or to do one thing. It's self-serving if we allow that to go on. The other institutions won't allow that. It's just that people have no shame, so they will just come up and only look for a report, and then all this thing went well. So I don't see. The National Assembly must know that they are working for the people. Their interest is to protect the interest of the people. Their interest is to make sure that the people do not die from multiple taxation, multiple, how they call it, tariffs, and all sorts of other things. If they think they are insulated from the problems that all the masses are facing, they should look at the past leaders who eventually return to, to leave office and see how the people treated them. So I know most of them do not care about posterity, but posterity is actually very important if you know that you are going to leave all strength behind after your time is over. So you should be able to care about posterity. Today, what we have is that there's a law has been passed. The man who Dasuki who did the thorough investigation said that he put both of them side by side. And he's a very intelligent man who will know what is gazetted. So are you not going to tell us that maybe they replace the gazetted copy and say, oh, everything is fine, it was a mistake? No, I don't know why they want to tell us, because if a man who put his political potential on the line by coming to the floor of the House to make such allegation, I stand with him 100% on that.
Okay, now, why do you think the legislature will actually surrender its powers? Because what was gazetted, there are provisions for oversight. I mean, that one has been removed. And then the National Assembly can summon, demand reports, enforce accountability. What lawmakers passed. Now, it means their powers for check and balances have been taken away. Why do you think, with this compelling issue, and then we didn't hear a strong voice up till now, apart from the likes of Dasuki, yes, Mansour Manusoro, and a few others. Of course, there's one that might likely table emotion. Why? Because even Dasuki, at the first instance, he was denied the opportunity to raise emotion.
All this is a part of state capture. It's part of state capture because those who are their leaders, their presiding officers, have promises made to them. So they are using the whole house to be able to make sure that they achieve the target of trying to subdue
in the Senate. You have 109 senators. If you are talking about the principal officers, how many are they? Are they
14?
Up to 20?
They are 14 or so.
Okay, now in the House of Reps, 360. How many principal officers?
The issue is that they have made laws that override our constitutional authority. These are committee of equals. Everybody there is equal.
Then why are the remaining members so gullible?
Because look at when Dasuki wanted to speak, they didn't allow him. So that's what happened. Look at what happened.
And there was no support from
because the House has been beaten. These people have surrendered their authority to those in power. Whether you are committee chairman or you are vice committee chairman or you are a member of a juicy committee, as they call it in the House. So they have lost their independence through that. And I know because of also the involvement of the National Assembly in executive functions by the way of how they call it, this their contract that they are doing. So that's the problem. Why the National Assembly has oversight function over the authority and acts of the executive. They are no longer carrying that up. How many times have you seen the National Assembly review anything from any ministry? Because they're in bed with them. They are all following this contract way instead of making laws and looking at the laws and then looking at how appropriation committee does their work and what was appropriated, whether it was genuinely, followed with clean heart by those in the executive. These are the functions of the National Assembly, but they are not doing that anymore because from juicy committee to juicy member of committee to vice chairman of committee, they have spread it, and that's why you see they keep on creating more committee to be able to make sure that the House is committee driven, so everybody has something not to complain. Yeah, but there are so very few integrity senators there who have tried to defend the Constitution. I won't use one broom to sweep all of them. There are very few, but in the minority where they are today, their voice is really.
Okay, what is the implication of this alteration? That funds can be frozen or taken without High Court order. This was what was gazetted after being changed. Then, meaning that removal of judicial protection. Do you think serious Nigerians will accept this?
What have they not accepted? Nigerians have always accepted and adjusted to everything. Why? Because in a case where they are touching another one person, you say, no, it's not my member of my family. It's not me. That person suffers. Until they get to another person. The person will say, oh, that man they were doing before, we are not related. They get another. So that's how Nigeria has worked. For people in power, that's how the divide and rule they've used to be able to, further weaken both social and political fabric of our country. So this kind of law, you could see that it is an attempt by the executive to make itself more powerful.
But to what end now? To what end, for instance?
It's to power capture. It's a power capture.
Okay, after capturing the power, to what end? Because you have to govern people, but by the time you emasculate them, what will be the outcome?
I don't think, if the outcome would have been that the people will go to cast their vote and say, no, the authoritarianism, this tyranny is too much, we are voting against you. But is the voting system free? Is it fair? Is it credible? Do you have the National Assembly, do they have the capacity to make laws that will be able to give voting framework the opportunity for people's vote to count? So that the National Assembly has even lost their authority.
Do you foresee Nigerians maybe pushing back at the end of the day if the executive, in cahort with the legislature, sell these tax laws the way we have them gazetted?
We're at a boiling point. I won't lie to you. People are suffering. I think anything can happen.
People can revolt.
People can revolt. There's no job. People can't eat. The economy is dry. The contractors are not being paid. If the contractors are paid, they will go to market. Money will flow through the system. All the budget, the capital expenditure last time performed below 30%. This 2023, we do not even have a data from the budget office or from the presidency how the budget performed. And we are past another budget. And the economy is dried like there's no money anywhere. People are going through hell. And I think that Nigeria and their citizens are already looking at a way to make sure that this democracy is defended. Because democracy is the only true way of governance that we must defend collectively as a people.
Okay, Professor Awolu Yadudu is a law professor, he made some observations saying elements within the executive arm of government may have unilaterally altered the laws in furtherance of a tax reform agenda. This is not a frivolous person. So what do you think maybe the judiciary, because he belongs to that, but apart from being an academic, what do you think the judiciary should do to salvage this situation?
The judiciary, they used to be the last hope of the common man. Because if it was war, people would have run to the judiciary to look at the case and then try to quickly raise issues out of it. Look at what happened in Rivers State. It took them over 7 months or so to be able to talk about it. So how long will it take for them to look at this thing? By that time, the laws will be in 2026. So I don't think they see beyond their nose.
He also said if this allowed to stand to constitutional governance. When you had someone, stepping on constitutional provisions, some believe that is actually an impeachable offense.
It is. I told you my opening. I said, we are living in a civilized society where democracy is really in practice. There would have been letters written to the presidency, to Taiwo, to the clerk of the house, and every other person, so that they will bring their clean copy. Because the clerk of the house will process it and then take it to whatever where it will go. So it is clear, the Attorney General. But it is a person who utter an already passed law, which is a very huge criminal offense. And if the president is found wanting, it's an impeachable offense. So these are all the things we are saying. There's nothing there. The law must take its full course. But who are the people who are going to make sure that this law is potent enough to take its full course?
Why is the opposition, especially in the National Assembly, because those people, if they can coalesce into a force, you lead the coalition of united political parties. What are you doing at your level? To see that you reawaken the consciousness of the few that we still have in opposition political parties.
The media is a strong...
we have been doing our own.
You're doing your work, and you've been helping us, and we've been speaking, and we'll be trying to conscientize the people to see the reason why they must, be able to defend this democracy. The reason why they must see that, we are already moving towards a class society that the poor can no longer, survive within it. And for the National Assembly and the opposition, I look at them, the people who are scared and also thinking of second term. If they mean well for this country, by now, people talk, there shouldn't be struggle. There should be struggle in the floor of the house when they don't allow you to speak. And there should be support from other lawmakers. They should throw away their fear and throw away their sentiment and their personal interest. If they are going to suspend 20 people, you will find out that it will not work. But if you isolate yourself and you allow somebody to be isolated, then they will become powerful. So it is clear that there must be a coordinated approach by those who share the same political viewpoint, who share the same understanding of how the National Assembly works, to be able to come together to challenge the tyranny, the descent into tyranny. Because we can't have our laws amended apart from the constitutional established process by the National Assembly. And if we should make a law, we go to sleep. What about Constitution? Why are we going to know what will happen? Even the sixth alteration they are doing to the Constitution, what are we going to know? We might not read all. Some people might not have the painstaking time to go through it one by one. So are we going to be having laws that, what we pass will not be what we operate on? So this is a very serious allegation. And we must get to the bottom of it, so that for the good of our nation and for the betterment of our citizens. Because the law is coming to effect in January, and if we don't do that, it could be used against those who don't submit or surrender to the whims and caprices of those who have attacked.
Do the legislatures actually think about their people? We had a situation recently in one of the states from the Northwest, where the locals actually attempted to, descend on their lawmaker. Why are they disconnected with the people who voted for them, who expect some action from them? I'm referring to our National Assembly members.
Because they're insensitive. They don't have the interest of the people at heart. Most of them were rigged into power. And so they think that the same rigging will happen again. And
will it not happen?
I think you just told me that people revolted. How many times have they revolted? The thing is gathering momentum. People are getting tired of the manipulation, of the disrespect, of the mismanagement of our public common resources. People are getting tired. Nothing lasts forever. You look at all over the world, empires have collapsed due to poor management, due to poor communication, and due to sensitivity to people's plight. So it is not something that will last forever. And I believe that if the people in power have any sense of emotion at all, or sense of human thinking, they should be able to, look back, sit down, and then reassess the situation of this country and make sure that governance work for the poor.
We have started seeing civil society organizations. I don't want to mention them, but maybe I'm compelled to mention. For instance, Sarah, they have approached now court to see whether they will get some redress on behalf of Nigerians. Do you think other CSOs should also come in now? Because it appears, just as you said, Nigerians are actually looking for another alternative, believing that the National Assembly or even the state legislatures might not necessarily salvage them from the vagaries of, impunity and all that.
I said, earlier that when people are oppressed, when people are cheated, when people feel the government is not doing right, or when government try to manipulate processes and convention, the place the citizens usually go to is the court. But people are very reluctant these days because the impunity of the executive, the impunity of those in power, have actually also rubbed off on those in the judiciary. And even the appointing process and where judges are appointed now has also really affected the credibility of those we have as judges. So maybe they will prove me wrong, but I think that those who have gone to court, maybe their case will not be heard in the next 6 months.
And if you have your way, of course, we have given you a platform here. What appeal, for instance, will you make to the leadership of the National Assembly to see reason in some of these observations made by eminent Nigerians from across the divide?
There's no amount of wealth you could gather those in National Assembly today that will, give you the kind of peace of mind you want. But,
you have lost hope in them.
But I really lost hope in them. I have a lot of friends there, so I'm trying not to rub all of them with one brush. But what I seek for them is for them to look at the future, for them to, once in a while, leave that exotic seat and then drive into places like Cabo Market, go to Nyanya Market, and see how people are suffering. Go to Masaka, go to Gugu, go to Kike, all the low rural areas, and see how much people are suffering, so that you can connect yourself to the suffering of the people, so that you can let posterity judge you well. People don't believe in posterity anymore. They think they have to live in now. They think they have to amass wealth for their children. But they also look at history. History have not treated those who try to amass wealth, whether former governors and co, for their children, and how it happened. But if your children see you as a morally upright person, the chances are that they could do better than you. So I think the National Assembly must, justify the trust Nigerians are putting on them, because I'm not part of those Nigerians that trust them. And so they should try and wake up and then face the responsibility of working for the good of our people.
Now going to the executive, you can see the outpouring of anger and all that. But then, in fairness to them, all over the world, governments must collect taxes so as to now do what is expected. So how do you think the Tinubu administration can convince Nigerians that, look, we are making a difference this time around?
I don't see how they want to convince Nigerians. How much have they gotten from the only one mono product that we have, the crude? Where have they used it? Has it affected the life of our people? They need to prove to me. I don't think they have seen they are going to do the right thing. For me, like I've said, and a lot of Nigerians who have shared the same opinion, government should not continue to widen the, put more tax on the Nigerian people. They should look at the resources available, use this judiciously for the betterment of our people, build more roads so that commerce can, move from one place to the other freely. Look at Lokoja Road. I couldn't go to my state. I'm from Kogi. I couldn't go because of what happened in Lokoja. Some of my friends and relatives slept there for 3 days. So we need to be able to have government that is effective and proactive in using public resources for public good. And when you expand this process and you be able to, bring more opportunity for local investors to have enabling environment to do their business, they will expand and government will get more money. We are speaking to you today. ShopRite has closed from Jabi to Lagos to Apple. They've closed. Is there any study government is doing? Government think government should run on autopilot, or the economy will run on autopilot and survive. They can't survive. It is the man who wears the shoes, know where it pinches. Go to look at the organizer on the street, the wheelbarrow man in the market. Go and ask them how they are living, how the cost of living, how the inflation.
But is collecting tax a crime?
It's not a crime, but we need to be able to block the loopholes. Our money are being stolen. Our oil is being stolen. We are the only country in the world, oil producing nation in the world, that does not have a flow meter. We cannot tell you exactly how much crude oil we are pumping today. They are stealing it.
Maybe it is expensive to buy.
No, it's not expensive. They are stealing it. And Nigerians are paying for it. So when you cover that and you get more money, you will do your citizens well. Then we will protest and say you should tax us more. We're not doing anything. We can't leave government and, so much money coming to government, so much money is being lost. I told you, 17.5 trillion was paid for pipeline security. Where? Please, we must be able to call a spade a spade. The government they are not trying for the people, and they're not interested in the welfare of the people.
Finally, then, your words to the National Assembly as they converge between tomorrow and next. Should they ask the government to actually suspend this until the right thing is done? Should they summon that courage?
The only responsibility the National Assembly have tomorrow is to listen to the voice of the people on the street. They don't have the courage. They should use the courage of those on the street. They should use the courage of the Nigerian masses who are suffering from this harsh economic reality, and then use it to ask the executive to suspend the implementation of the new tax law, pending when we get our acts together and find a stable economic situation for our people.
All right, thank you very much, Comrade Peter Ameh, Secretary of the Coalition of United Political Parties, CUPP, for coming to the program and then giving me the political stroke economic perspective to this serious problem. We hope to have you again some other time.
Thank you for having me.
And viewers, our apologies for actually mentioning the name of Tope Pashwa instead of Tope Ajayi, and then erroneously we also mentioned Mohamed Lawal Owais when we wanted to refer to Professor Awalu Yadudu. This is a mistake on our side, and we really apologize. And that brings us to the end of today's package of Daily Politics. Join us tomorrow for another interesting edition of the program. From here, I'm Hamza Idris. Good night.